Hey everyone, this is Tim Souza with Real Estate en Route, and I am so excited to be back in KW with John Fishbein, and he is a good friend of mine. We've hung out for
quite a while
now, yeah. And so I'm excited to be back, and I don't know anybody who knows this history of this city and the history of this market more than John. So I am going to lean into him. But John, welcome to Real Estate en Route. I'm excited to have you. First question is okay, who are you? Where are we in the city of Kitchener right now? Tell me a little bit about Kitchener, and then I want to jump into what you specialize in and why you're in real estate.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, we're in Kitchener, but just over there is Waterloo. So even though they're two cities, they really function as one. That's why I say KW. And so we are an hour long. Sorry.
I was saying super close. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So we are
an hour away from Toronto, okay. But we're an hour away from Toronto. We're the most educated city in all of Canada and one of the most in all of North America.
Really?
We're also the youngest city in all of Canada in terms of the number of students that come from Laurier, from Conestoga, but of course University of Waterloo, and stay here. They love the quality of life, and they stay here because of the jobs, the community, the safety, the enjoyment, the proximity, and just the vibe that is so different. It has some deep Mennonite and German roots, but it's diversifying so quickly. We're also the smallest city to putting in a brand new LRT system, which is now running, and that's really innovative thinking. And it's also a collaborative city where we work together. Sort of the notion of a Mennonite thing of barn raising, to build things together rather than just always in silos and individuality. And we are totally unique in that in the world.
How long have you been in real estate? And let's start there. You said a couple years.
Well, no, it's been my fourth decade, about 31 and a half. But in some ways I feel like I've been longer, having done my thesis on the city for almost 10 years, and even looking at housing stock, staging development, even a thing called consumer aggregate model, which predicts whether a store will do well or not with a threshold of...
Depending on where it is.
Demographics, money. So it's one thing to build Tim Hortons in a corner of the city. It's another thing to build IKEA. It needs a certain stretch, so that I actually understand those relationships. So I feel like I've been in real estate in some ways all my life. I didn't plan on getting into that. Went through university though, not at all. In fact, I was reticent to get into it, thinking, just a used car salesman and those people.
Right.
And then I realized I love people. I love the city. And I love interacting and helping people out. So then it became a natural thing for me. Cool. And I didn't know, and still I have many other interests other than real estate, whether it's helping, like I said, with refugees. I do volunteer at the women's prison. A lot of people don't know about that. So there's much more than just being a real estate agent. And I like the people, and then there's connection points with the people I interact with.
Of course.
And they say, yes, I'm good at what I do, but that's not all that I am. That doesn't just define me.
Right. So what drives you? Tell me about what drives you both as a human and then of course jumping into real estate.
It sounds like I'm repeating myself, but helping out people, taking care, advocating, having fun. I do like to have fun. And so not take myself too seriously, but do a great job. So then people are left, really, they say, wow, thanks for referring me, John, if someone refers me, and then that's nice. I had someone the other day say, I need an agent to actually, that knows this stuff. And then the person said, well, I've already been referred to someone. And both of them have been referred to me, coming from Ottawa.
Oh, that's awesome. Coming from Ottawa.
Well, yeah, but two people said, you got to use this agent. No, you got to use this agent. And it was both John Fishbein.
Oh, that's awesome. So what is the most asked question you find yourself answering for clients?
That's a good question, in the sense that I don't know if I can say that as simple as some would say.
Maybe a couple. What are the top couple questions?
Well, of course, it's a good area to live in. And how much can I afford? Or I try to help them not make the decision. I learned right from day one, I'm not going to be living there. I love older houses. Not everyone loves older houses.
Right.
So I really try to listen intuitively what they're looking for, and then try to work it backwards. So I try to be an inductive and deductive thinker and listener. And so that way I let them tell the story. Often they'll say they're looking for this. That may not be anything close to what they're buying, but we just do the journey together. I try to keep an open communication and say, hey, I'm starting to you mentioned this, but I'm starting to notice you're looking at these ones.
Right.
Has that changed? Or maybe we should do two searches? So I don't know if there's a single question that every person will ask. I try to let them tell their own narrative, their own
Right.
story of where they're at their life, whether it's some sick person in their family or a young family, or whatever, or a great story of just success, whatever it be.
John, how many homes do you sell a year? Like, what's the?
It varies, to be
Obviously,
honest,
yeah.
and of up to 100, which is a lot because I have one unlicensed assistant. So you're not lost with 55 different people on a team and you don't know who you're dealing with, which is a trend. And I hear that over and over. You got this big team, but who's advocating for it? Who knows those nuances? Who knows what you do? Who knows what you're looking for? Myself. So I've chosen not to go super big that way and just concentrate on my clients. And I think the average person likes that. And I think they value that.
Cool. That's awesome. What would you say is your area of specialization in the market? Like,
Yeah.
is it an age group? Is it
Yeah.
a part of the city?
So I can honestly say that I like diversity. I like different things. And so I'm the one agent in industrial, commercial, investment, ICI, including staging land. I study that. I also like little old ladies, yes, or whether it's young couples that are looking for the first home, or looking for the size up or the forever home. So I actually like diversity. Now I think there's a lot of people that do just in condos. But then they have to sell a house, or they don't like older houses. So then they just don't miss the market.
Right.
So I think, I can honestly say I deal with all these things, but I think that actually helps the client because it's not only a uniform thing. So I just sold a brand new condo to an investor, but at the same time I had someone else looking at just century old houses. So I think I can honestly do a good job for those. And if I don't, if it's someone from a different city, unless I know that city well, I don't touch it. I would get a top-notch referral network, like exactly what you're doing.
Right.
And he's doing with getting the local experts in this area, which is a great idea, and then getting the best person, and then concentrating on them.
Right. And so then you're just like, hey, I don't know Markham, but I got some good people in Markham, so here's my person in Markham, 100%, trust them.
And when someone's referred to me, whether it's in this network or through Tim or anyone else, then I want to do a good job for the person that you're referring me, but I also want to do a good job for Tim, because Tim's the one that risks to refer me to Bob and Mary or whoever. So I see that long-term thinking. So right away I work hard for
Because it's
Bob
about the
and Mary,
relationship at that
and,
point,
and
right?
I want to make sure Tim goes, that gets something back from Bob and Mary. Thank you for doing John. He was great. He took care of us. He didn't rush us. He didn't pressure us. He gave us good advice, or he was on top of things and knew this stuff. So that's what I'm looking for.
Cool. Yeah, and that's one of the pieces is as we do this channel, as we figure out like these pieces, I want to showcase the value of local agents, right? To be like, these are like, they're not just humans who open doors for you. They're not just an advanced search algorithm that you can just talk to, like you can now you're starting to talk to Google, but you do so much more.
I was fairly young and really rare as an agent coming in when there wasn't many young agents. And so this is not against young agents at all, because I was there. But there is something to experience. There's something old-fashioned living through circumstances, negotiating, truly advocating, trying to explain and to understand what the elements are so that my clients, whether buying or selling, investing or merging, that is done for them in the best way possible. And there's something that just can't replace the experiences. And in challenging times, the knowledge that I have, the experience that I have, I can just do that for my clients. Like that, this it's intangible.
So tell me about this home.
This home is a typical home. It's $499, $500,000. It's really good, single car garage. It's very spacious. Voisin was the builder, one of the top builders, where it was just built properly. The room behind us over here is 21 feet, great bright windows all around. It's close to uptown Waterloo and downtown and the universities and the expressway. And it's right near one of the choice areas called Westmount and all of Kitchener-Waterloo. So we're in a prime, really almost near the center of KW.
So everything's about, what, 10, 15 minutes from
Yeah,
here?
really, honestly, 15 minutes is the most. But this lot is 58 by 120 and you have complete privacy. So you don't have someone staring down at you, which is really nice that way.
How does that compare to other lots in the city, but also other lots in this specific community here?
Well, this community, it's pretty typical, but this is one of the nicer ones. Inwood is a nice street that has the big lots. As any city, wherever it goes, what's happening is we sell real estate, and the less there is, the less frontage. So almost 60 feet is very large frontage here. So there are smaller ones that are being built because the land is often the big component that most people don't understand is what we're selling. And so there's smaller frontages that way as well. So this is good that way. Yeah, I can be honest with you. This kitchen is a little dated. But it's big, it's bright, and it's got the size to expand to it. So I just had two couples looking at it. They'll probably blow the wall over here, and they'll just put a newer kitchen in. Then you have the main problem solved. But we've also tried to price it with that accordingly. We try to be fair and honest and say, look, we're not going to go here because we're offering this. But in that way, the homeowners are great people that I care about. They're missionaries of all things, and so they don't really value the things that perhaps some other people do, and that can be good too, because then they are looking at doing what's necessary, and plus they're out of country, so it's hard to manage those things when you're not in the country.
Right. What has happened in the market? You were talking about like, hey, pricing things accordingly. What has happened in the KW market in the last couple of years? Living here myself personally, and having friends who bought property, I've seen them like gain a lot of value in the price of their home. So like, what's happened? Where is it now? Where has it been? And like, where do you kind of see it going forward?
Right. A number of independent institutes have always had Kitchener-Waterloo as the first or second of best place to invest in. What I mean by that, we don't have quite the Toronto prices, value for the money, but we also have the uplift for all these young people coming to get jobs here, and that's what drives the marketplace. So there's a segments that are crazy, and 2017 was things we'd never seen. At one stage, properties were going up $1,713 a day in February of 2017. A day.
Really?
It was
what
unheard
drove
of.
that? What created?
Well, it was a pent up demand from two factors. From us, like if you picture, not just out of Toronto, but Toronto, if you bring a picture of a rock thrown in a pond, and then there's a ripple effect. So it started happening from Milton, Mississauga, Milton, then Guelph, happened a month or two, and then boom, hit KW. But we also were not just a bedroom community. We have jobs here. People.
But there's 1,500 tech companies.
I think it's even that's outdated. I think it's more than that.
Really?
Even when BlackBerry, which was founded here, the inventor of the smartphone, even when they sized down, there was 973 different startup companies from that alone, just out of BlackBerry.
Wow. Okay.
Small 1-2 man person and ladies shops, and then bang up.
John, I've been in a number of different cities recently, and one of the most fascinating pieces for me is what you get price-wise for different homes in the community. And so talk to me about what the different price points are in Kitchener and Waterloo, and what you see, where you've seen it come from.
Yeah, so again, going back and repeating myself, again, this young city driven more than perhaps any other city in Canada, and amongst the most in North America, which is a big statement, by this young educated force. And not everyone, but a lot of them have some money. And so
Is it coming from tech
it's coming from tech, but it's coming from the universities. It's coming from still some advanced manufacturing. We have some amazing Toyotas here, and we have the largest, insurance companies are all here. So there's a basis of stability, most diversified portfolio of different types of jobs in all of Canada again. And so we have not relied as much on government as many of some other cities are. And I think that's good because we're getting things done here, as the kind of saying goes. The price points on the low end it's hard to get anything under 300 that isn't whatever, little condo, little townhouse. And it's been crazy this past year, couple after couple after couple, trying to get into the marketplace. And there's multiple offers, and there's holding offers, which is a trend here. I'm sure it's other places as well. But there is a real strength in the low and middle end. Middle end is probably this one, 500, 600, 700. But there's some tremendous, properties here that go up larger in terms of price, 2, 3, 4, as there is in many other areas, even more. But the emphasis is that middle and that low end. And so there's this driving workforce that are educated, come here from other cities. They stay here because they love the.
So like with that, you're talking, it's a great place to raise kids. It's a great place to. What age groups do you see? You're saying because you say young adults, and we've got like a high education. You've got the university, so I'm assuming there's like kind of post-university crowd. What about other crowds in the community?
Yeah. So for example, right here next door, wonderful couple I met.
Okay.
She's a prof at University of Waterloo, and he's originally from Germany, so has a good thick German accent. Lovely couple,
Cool.
interesting. And they don't have any kids, so there's also that segment of place where perhaps they do, I guess, but not presently young kids.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's diversified here in that element, but we have the expectation in KW to be a community that works together collectively, and that our school system is very good as well for the school-age children, because the professionalism and the emphasis on the universities and what that drives it. And so it's a high level of expectation, but we also are willing to work. So the volunteer level is historically the highest in KW. Newfoundland would be the one, maybe exception.
So there's more volunteers in KW than anywhere else really in Canada?
Absolutely.
Was it Right for Refuge?
Right here. In fact, that was just yesterday, and it was started here. Many other good causes, and that comes up with the value system. Faith is a big part, without being weird on that, but it plays into shaping this area dramatically. And so that's another piece that a lot of people don't want to talk about or don't know what to do with, but I see that as a force of good
in this community.
In this community, and then again, like I said, it's from some of the historical value systems. It was founded by some Mennonites and some people fleeing persecution as well. So there's that sense of working together.
What would you give then, as people are wanting to move into this community, or maybe they're graduating university and they're looking to move and actually, buy a home, they've got a tech job here, what would you recommend to them in buying a house in this community?
Well,
other than giving you a call.
Yeah, give Mr. Sir John a call.
Mr. Sir John, that's how he introduced himself to me years ago.
Fourth decade in the business. Get someone that's experienced and knows, that truly old-fashioned cares, that really values. I form a relationship. I get my Dear John letters, but those are good Dear John letters. Because people are not rejecting me. They're saying, Dear John, thank you. And I sort of tag your Realtor for life. So that I'm looking for lifelong relationships, and I mean that, and I enjoy my clients, and so I really try to advocate for them, and that's an old-fashioned. That's what an agent means. You're advocating for your client, and most people don't understand that, or they don't appreciate it, or they say, "Yeah, I have an agent. What's her name?" Well, that's unfortunate.
Well, that means that you don't have that relationship. Yeah. So what is it? So then, what do you do to separate yourself, set yourself apart from other? Like, what's your unique value proposition as an agent?
Sure. Again, I think that one thing I bring is caring. I think about experience, but more than that, I bring the knowledge, again, from my university, having done my thesis on this city over 5-6 years, specifically on zoning, planning, demographics, traffic counts, staging development, sewer, water even in the neighborhood. Some people don't know about water in the neighborhood. That's why it's so important to deal with a local agent, not someone from Toronto that can sell here and doesn't know what the areas are, or anything from crime rates to other things like that really do affect the average person.
Okay, so you've got your thesis here. You were telling me earlier that you, as an 11-year-old, asked for a book of history on the city.
It was, not only was it a book, it was a 1938 book reissued, and I heard about it because I read stupid amounts, and it was being reissued. So it wasn't a brand new book in I won't give the date, it was 11 years old, but it was sometime later, and in that case, that's Weird Child. So that's not just making this stuff up. And so I was on the Downtown Advisory Task Force for Downtown Kitchener when it was really not as good. Now it's...
Okay, so what's happened? Talk to me about the history of Kitchener.
Oh my goodness. So Kitchener, again, Waterloo are so different, so unique. So Kitchener's had 5 names. Most people do not know this, lived here.
I thought only had 2.
Nope.
Okay.
So it was Mount Pleasant, Beebeetown, Sand Hills, Berlin, which got changed in 1916 to Kitchener. Lord Horatio Kitchener. I want you was the guy you might recognize from the British war movement trying, I want you. He was a general. But one of the interesting things, I bet you don't know that, on the plebiscite there's 5 names, and one of them was Kelowna, which was then further taken, but one of them was Adanac. Adanac was one of the names of the 5, and Kitchener was chosen. I think Adanac came second. Adanac is Canada backwards.
Oh.
Yeah, I bet you didn't know that.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, I think it would have been Canada, but whatever.
Cool. So talk to me. So Kitchener's had 5 names. So you said you were part of the city and you've seen it transform. Talk to me about that transformation. What have you seen?
So we had Uniroyal Goodrich. We had big, huge Budd Automotive. We had many of these manufacturing plants with the most diversified marketplace. But that changed. So rather than shut down plants, which happened, those are now coming into all kinds of different uses. One of the first places the Blue Box recycling program worldwide started here, saying rather than just throw stuff out, that was early environmental stuff back in the early 80s.
Really?
It was started right here in Kitchener. And so there's so many things that just forward creative thinking. Okay, where's the problem? Let's find new ideas. And that you can even see that in tech world, where you see that
absolutely, every day.
Working together, and rather than competing, let's say, hey, how can we do better? How can we do something that's different?
Collaborate to bring new things to the world.
That's right. And yeah.
And then I also know that like this community has had like a lot of social justice movements.
Correct.
There's from social justice to helping refugees, which I guess can fall underneath that a little bit
Sure.
too. What are those parts of the city? How have those transformed this community?
It is fundamental, and so whether it's through, again, with the Mennonite heritage, not just that, and this is not just horse and buggy stuff, but it's also stuff that basically looks at the value system and from different faith groups, but also furthermore just the component of taking care of the other, the community. So just not me, myself, and I. A lot of things, most people do not know this about Canada, but the American motto is well known. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But most Canadians do not know their own motto.
Oh, what
it's
is
so
it?
different. I will demonstrate to you.
Proud Canadian here.
Well, no, because no. Peace, order, and good government. Is that so different than the American?
Oh, wow.
The collective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus the individualist. And I'm not trying to be anti-American in this, my American friends, not at all. I'm not that way. It's just delineating. No, I mean that sincerely. And one of the things I also did for my thesis, I looked at a thing called the myth of the North American city. To think in all American cities and all Canadian cities, they kind of know they're different, but they don't understand why. And I wrote it back to this idea that we're collective. We're working together. Peace, order, and good government. Let's work together. Peace, order, and good government. And I would say if any city in all of Canada amplifies that the most, it's Kitchener-Waterloo.
That's awesome.
Well, that's what you got me for.
Oh, I know that's what I got you for, but it's also like that explains why I have such a pride in both the city and in the country.
Yeah, and wherever you go, you'll never lose that. You can then be.
KW will always be a home of mine. Yeah,
exactly.
100%. Cool. So you're talking about market effects, and you were saying how we've got a new LRT, you've got trains coming in from Toronto, we have more people commuting, but we're not a bedroom community because we've got 1,500 people. I think it's called like the tech corridor here between Kitchener, Waterloo, and Toronto, and so we have all of our own jobs, a diverse employment ecosystem in our own right. What out of those different kind of pieces of the community, where you see that growing? Because I know that as I've been here for the last, or I lived here for like 5-6 years, I saw the city just kind of boom. I've seen more towers grow up, people moving in. Where do you see it headed?
I see it headed intensification along the LRT line. That's obvious. But there's a 40-story building is downtown Kitchener. That's the tallest building outside of basically Toronto, in Ontario or Hamilton, and so that's the future of things. But it's also the bedroom communities just outside, the New Hamburgs and Elmiras that aren't too far away. There's some growth there. Slightly cheaper, but not always cheaper, land as well. But you have these condos are just coming up everywhere. So there's an intensification that's purposefully intended for this area. That's one of the routes in which the LRT was designed to implicate. So it wasn't just to put the system in, but to bring this nodes and shops. It's some really creative.
It's kind of like a spine in the city.
A spine, and then we have also the expressway that goes around it, which is phenomenal to get people really 10, 15, 20 minutes anywhere.
Cool. In this community, you're talking about people ask about the different areas in the community. What are the different areas for housing in KW?
Right. Okay. So that's a great question. It's a fairly new city, and what I mean by that is that it is grown quickest, even in the 60s when Calgary was growing dramatically. One city outgrew it, and that was Kitchener-Waterloo. So we have some established neighborhoods. We have some growing ones on the periphery, but they're not far out. But they have as well historic. So it had Bridgeport as one of the centers, and then right beside there's another city, Cambridge, which is another 145,000 people. Okay. So together that makes close to 2/3 of a million. Guelph is there close, another 3/4 of a million people. So that's considered basis. The interesting thing about Kitchener-Waterloo is that the Grand River is a significant river,
Okay.
and it's the first urban river heritage in all of Canada. Normally they're the great rivers of the North, Mackenzie or the Moose River, but in this case, the Grand acts as a barrier to growth. So the first bridge was only put in across Fairway over the Grand about 3-4 years ago, and that was the first bridge in over 50 years. So the
Is that a jurisdictional boundary?
It is the edge of Kitchener-Waterloo, but it also is a physical boundary. And a lot of people don't understand the physical boundary. We hear the other side of the tracks. Well, some cities, literally the other side of the tracks is quite not as nice as the other side of the tracks. But the Grand is beautiful, and it goes right through the city, but it stopped growth. So and that's unusual. So it's the largest city in the world not centered on a water system. It's actually stopping the growth.
And so with that, do you see people moving out into, like, are you seeing movement of people from KW into the smaller communities surrounding KW, or is that not really the case? Are they going the other direction?
It's a bit of both. It's like staging life. Some people want to pigeonhole. It's this or it's that. No, it's always shades of gray in terms of what that means in that person, that lifestyle. What we have is the big components. A young, educated city that continues to get younger and more educated. And if you look at some of our friends, just London or St. Catharines or Windsor,
Right.
similar, well, they're all smaller. Canada's the 10th largest, Kitchener, excuse me, is the 10th largest city in Canada. And it also is, it's again growing one of the fastest. So that is really factor. So some of those people will look at the periphery, but generally it's going to the towers and it's becoming more acceptable for the condos. So I believe that Toronto was saying, oh, we have 119 towers, the most of any city in all of North America. Well, the last count, I think we're at close to 32 here, which is proportional that Toronto's 10 times larger. So actually, you could do the math on that. There's more stuff happening here. And there's probably another 8 to 10 cranes going up here, so we'll be close to 40. So 1/3 of all of the stuff in Toronto talked about doing the crane count. And I was going to put that on my website soon, just to put like crane count, boom, 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 boom.
That'd be cool. Yeah, because I know when I'm in Toronto, people are like, KW, why is there all this, Toronto's so very insular in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah. So what, and if you haven't caught on, there's a little bit of an animosity between...
no, it's a love. We keep you Toronto people away for now, or no, I'm teasing.
Come join us.
Or that out.
Right. So it's fun because I know that like in Toronto they're like, why do we need to put more trains towards KW? Why do we need these pieces? But it's growing. It is becoming a center in its own right in the middle of
without question, and in its own right, its own thinking. Richard Florida, a famous well, he's a number of things. He's a business person, writer. He talks about these world megalopolises, which are huge areas. There aren't just one city. But he always says there's a city usually about an hour away from that, or some distance away. That's the creative, the thinking place, the maybe in the old days you would think of the art, but now I think it's changed. And he talks about Kitchener-Waterloo as a perfect example of including the Toronto and Hamilton, but then Kitchener is the one spot that does that. And it does make sense if you look what's happening here and how it's influencing. So again, the Toronto-Waterloo corridor is mentioned amongst the most, high-tech startups in all the world, and just behind like a place called Silicon Valley.
Right. Yeah, I think we're the second most dense population of startups per capita.
And it's growing at the fastest rate.
Oh my God,
that's even crazier.
What technology do you find yourself leveraging in your business?
So it depends on the age often. So some people, I like the old-fashioned phone. Kids go, what's the phone? It's just text. So I find I have to make that to each individual person. I actually try to do that from day one. The couple I'm working with right now, we've had 3 or 4 because they're a missionary couple. They're 6-7 hours, or they're in faraway land. So I have to change those methods to that one couple, the people that don't own this place. So in that case, I find it has to be contextual. Just like I listen to what they're looking for.
You figure out what technologies they use and meet them there?
Right, and sometimes that changes. When can I call you? Who do I call? What's the best? Is there a point person? Do you want me to send all 3 years or 2 years, what have you? And that can change again, whether it's a shift worker or someone's in faraway countries.
Cool. So actually, curious question in regards to challenging times. So what was the experience of KW in the 2008-2009 financial crash that we saw happening in the States?
Great question. we were the one place that did not really go down, and it's exactly the same elements were back then. Was building. It was lots of high-tech stuff coming up, young people still coming into our city,
Okay.
and the education there. Plus, with the non-reliance on outside forces, there were some struggles, there were some shutdowns, but then there's the creative thinking that came along, and so that
So kind
money
of,
was, invested with some really creative. You can knock a lot of politicians, and I have my frustrations at times, but there's some really forward local people that get down and figure this thing out. Don't look for Ottawa or Toronto to figure it out. We'll find our own solution right here in a creative way. And that's the heartbeat, that's the blood that runs deep in this area.
so what was a couple of those creative solutions that they ended up like leveraging? This is my curiosity. at this
Yes, and so Kitchener, for example, versus Waterloo, Kitchener was struggling with some of these places. You know, Goodrich shutting down, Kaufman, Footwear, Kodiak's shutting down. So the creative uses for those as high-tech places, and the universities moved in. University of Waterloo and Laurier moved downtown. They had a portfolio to give incentives and fundraisers. Where we see the benefits now of one of the hot spots in all of, again, Canada, building. So I think from that downturn or side turn, we managed it, and we said some long-term thinking. And that's the same with the LRT. That was 20 years plus, even Expressway putting that in. Was long-term thinking what's going to work, and I think willing to pay the price to make sure it's the best
place to live a decade or two from now.
Right.
Right. How has the housing market kind of fluxed in that development? Because there's got to be times when, heck, I lived in the city for a while. Everything seems to always be under construction.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, what does that do to the housing market in this community?
Well, the construction is a constant, without question, and for American friends, we have Canada has a construction season and winter. but the thing is that that again now, particularly the LRT was you put a brand new system like that in through a city, it's going to have effects, and not everyone likes it, and no one likes change, and so doesn't mean everything was done proper or right, but I think in the long term it's going to benefit. And we already see some ridership uses that are significant, and it's not just the young kids, which love it. It's the young kids like his age. I'm blind a little bit. But also the thing of the aging population that likes to be the idea, just get on their condo, get off, go to a place, hop off, and that.
Quickly walk to get groceries as an example of it before.
Simple things like that, or go out for a bite to eat and not worry about driving or parking, or if they have one drink, that's not a problem.
Oh, so that'll be fascinating to see in Oktoberfest this year.
Yes, that's coming up. The second largest Oktoberfest in the world, right here, this coming weekend. Gemütlichkeit. Not very good German.
Wunderbar. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all this construction, is inventory an issue in the city?
Inventory is an issue for sure, particularly on the low end.
Okay.
And detached. We're running out of land, literally, and so things are going up. There's pockets in the southwest of Kitchener that are the largest areas are left. Some of the very last open fields are being literally finished off in Waterloo right now as we speak. So soon Waterloo will be totally out of land for housing, new housing.
That's interesting because I was just flying over the city yesterday and I got these beautiful views. And it looks like KW is an island in the middle of farmland. So it feels like it could just spread out forever, but you're saying it can't because we're hitting limits.
Provincial laws and the forward thinking, I think, a lot is protecting the environment around. With that said, some of the best class A agriculture, the best agricultural land is right around. And so the Midnights were very smart. They found this incredible workable land, like where you're from, Fresno and different places like that, well.
Oh, absolutely, when there's workable. But we are actually also hitting our own barriers around that kind of stuff too as we scale as a city.
And I think that's a phenomenon that's happening everywhere in the world. If we try to balance out not progress with sustainability and I try not to go to either extreme to say one is good and one is bad, but rather how can we make these things work together in creative new ways of thinking, and that's what Kitchener-Waterloo brings.
Yeah, which is what I loved when I was living here working in tech, being like in these conversations to be like, okay, like did you know that we have a plan to source all of our food if there was ever like we got cut off from supply lines, like you could source the food from directly around the city.
Well, that's what's so funny.
Like,
all these things.
What cities has a plan for that? Like, that's just fascinating.
It's him buying local and all these things. Well, they've always done that. The curbside, just go do this stuff. This is not a new idea, so I kind of laugh at some of the ads on TV, you know, as if this is a brand new thing.
Yeah. So, but it's funny because I often refer to like being educated here, working here as the beginning of my career was like kind of like living on Mount Olympus a little bit. Like, there's all of this stuff that's like, this is so perfect. But like when you go to other communities, they don't have it. So cool. Well, John, thank you very much.
Great. Nice seeing you back in this town.
Absolutely. It's fun to be back. It's sad I'm only here for like a day, but I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, for sure. K-Dub, that's who I am. I'm your guy. John Fishbein, your realtor for life. And fun.
And he's fun, and he never matches his socks. So then when you see that, you know it's him again, even if his hair goes away.
I need a haircut. But
yeah. Hey.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.